Welcome back to Clutch Time Huddle. Right now we're going to discuss the Joe Flacco deal. He signed a 6-year, $120 million contract. It's definitely one of the richest contracts in NFL history. Jim, what do you think about that initially?
Worried about it a little bit at first. I wanted to hate this deal. When I looked at this deal, I wanted to say Baltimore just handcuffed himself. When I broke down the numbers, the guaranteed money isn't what people think. Like, yes, it's a lot of money to you and I who work for a living. It's a lot of money. In the grand scheme of things, the first 4 years is the only thing that I'm reading it's guaranteed. The other two are option. I haven't gotten to the bottom where there's player or team option. But either way, it's an option, and that's where the big money is. That's where the big. I saw $20.6 million in the fifth year, $20 million in the sixth. If after 4 years they feel they're not getting the value, and up until this year, I'm not sure they would have signed this deal. I think if Joe Flacco doesn't stay consistent with the way he played in the playoffs, he cost himself about $40 million in this deal.
Absolutely, and if they didn't win the Super Bowl, if they had, because at one point they weren't even going to make the playoffs, would they have just franchise tagged him, wanted to see more? I mean, the way he played, he was so tremendous in the playoffs. I mean, the way he played in the playoffs was just ridiculous. If he could somehow translate that to the regular season, he certainly could be a very, very good quarterback, much better than he is right now during the regular season. That remains to be seen. One of the things that's so interesting, just for facts, he's actually not the highest paid quarterback in the NFL after taxes. It's actually Drew Brees, which I think is very funny. People keep saying he's the highest rated quarterback, in the NFL. He's not as far as the money goes. One thing we talked about handcuff. Right now they are in a very tough salary cap situation. Aquan Bolden has to resign his contract or get cut. That leaves just Torrey Smith. They have a lot of issues on the defense with Ray Lewis retiring, Ed Reed possibly being gone. With Joe Flacco having this deal, could his being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, does he carry some sort of influence on the free agency? Could he, because he won the Super Bowl, because he is so highly paid, because he is so respected in that locker room, does that carry some weight?
I don't think it does. Let's be honest. These guys have played their whole lives. When you start football, these guys, for the most part, you have your few exceptions, they've been playing football from pee-wee. We're talking 7, 8 years old. This is something they've done. And the time to make money is usually a 6 to 8 year window for even the stars. You get 2 or 3 big contracts. Money talks in free agency, nothing else. You could talk about weather, you could talk about wanting to win, but when free agency starts on Tuesday, the only thing that's going to talk is money. And Joe Flacco talked with money. You know what I mean? He made the money. He banked on himself. He had the offer at the end of last year. It was not, maybe 3/4 of what he ended up with. He banked on himself. He refused the deal. He thought he was better. His agent thought he could do better, and he did. My worry is he Carlos Beltran? Not to touch on baseball, but Beltran had that big postseason and got rich. And since then, he's not that kind of player. You take a small sample and pay him over a long time. I think that's a failure. It's just a failing scheme.
And one thing we touched upon in our previous segment was about quarterbacks. Joe Flacco gets hurt. They're not going to have money, behind him at quarterback. They've got all these resources in Joe Flacco. One good thing for them, they have Ray Rice. Having Ray Rice definitely is something that Ravens fans can still hold on to. We have Flacco, we have Rice. Potentially Torrey Smith could take the next step, certainly. As far as free agency goes, I do see what you're saying, but I'm kind of on the other side of the coin. I think because they're a Super Bowl winning team, because they built that culture of being a Super Bowl winning team this year, I think there could be a couple veteran free agents that'll say, hey, I'll go to Baltimore. Hey, I'll take a 1-year deal. You talk about some of the veteran cornerbacks that are available. Maybe one of them, like Charles Woodson, signs there, becomes a safety, not to get into free agency. We'll do that later. But I think there's a chance that some guys, like you said, a lot of the younger players, certainly, they're going to want their money. I mean, you're not going to see Mike Wallace go there and take less money, but a veteran player might, possibly. I mean, we're talking about a guy at the end of his career. It's not a 1-year contract looking to win.
My question is, though, if that's what... I see your point, but they won in the playoffs because of offense and defense. They lost their leader in Ray Lewis, no matter how bad he played at the end. Emotionally, he had the guys ready. There was no lull. You played sports. You have them games where the team just isn't there emotionally, mentally. Ray Lewis wouldn't allow it to happen. You lose an Ed Reed. Kerry Williams is a free agent. Kruger is a free agent. I don't foresee them being able to sign enough free agents to warrant paying him that kind of money. But as far as I did want to touch on one thing you said about the injury. I read he only has $1 million guaranteed. If he were to blow out his knee a la Dan Marino and his career would be over, he only makes $1 million on top of what he was signed to as far as signing bonus. Our next segment, we're going to touch on Darrelle Revis since we're talking about money. There's a man looking to get paid. Stay tuned.